First of all, if we could talk a little bit about changes in the model. You know, when I was growing up, ownership of music was something that was very important. You know, whether that be in any technology, and vinyl and cassettes and CDs. It appears to be, in our modern age of streaming, that ownership, at least within a consumer sector, might be less important. Could we speak to each of you panelists, beginning with Max about that? Max, what are your thoughts?
Let's say we launched in the beginning of this year Play.me, which is our cloud streaming service in the US, and so I'm definitely into the cloud model. I think that people sooner or later will understand, or a significant majority of the people in the market will understand that fetching a URL is the same thing that owning an MP3. We have operations in the US and then overseas in Southern Europe, and we are seeing that this type of shift is happening across the world.
We're trying to move the purchase experience into the cloud, so that if you're in a device and storage constrained device, or you're listening to something in streaming, and I think streaming is a really, really great way to discover music. You know, it's a lower threshold. There's lots of music out there. But I think that consumers still have a mentality about owning a collection, and music grows with you over time, and we've got a lot of data that supports this around both streaming as well as downloads, and so we're enabling people to purchase music in the cloud.
You know, we believe as a business that access is more important. And what we've seen over time is it's not just access on your PC. We have been for a number of years in various devices. I think that's the trend you're seeing in streaming, is to provide access on multiple devices. So we're in mobile phones, we're in televisions, we're in set-top boxes. Eventually everyone's going to be in the car. So from our standpoint, we believe providing the consumer access and diversity to content is sort of our value proposition, and that's where we think sort of what the consumer wants.
You know, as bandwidth constraints diminish and as connectivity improves, you're definitely going to see cloud-based consumption increasing. I think everybody agrees that it's an inevitability. But there's no one way that consumers want to enjoy their music. So even as that changes, you know, you're still going to get people who have massive collections that they just want to supplement bit by bit with one track at a time. They don't want to commit to a monthly subscription fee, let's say. It's not one size fits all, but I think the trick is to find as many exciting ways to bring music to people digitally as you can and let them make the choice.
Kind of a two-part thing. One is streaming seems free, but is it really? What costs are borne by the consumer? And are consumers aware of and willing to pay providers for bandwidth plus the fees to cover appropriate licensing of material?
Well, it's definitely not free. I mean, that is, you know, I think that if we step back from all of this complexity around digital, and you start and you say, okay, you know, it wasn't really that long ago when, maybe 10 years, 12 years ago, when the standard was radio, and that is free. You know, there's terrestrial radio, and people put up with ads or having lack of flexibility around what they get to listen to, but it's free, and so there's a really low barrier, and then that was the primary way that people discovered music that they wanted to own. And that model has kind of migrated to the online world, but the revenue channels haven't. The behavior is definitely there, that people like to have a low threshold discovery, listen to something that's streaming and programmed for you. But the costs that everyone has to pay around streaming are definitely they're definitely there, and they're actually more than what terrestrial broadcasters had to pay.
And what we've found sort of in the industry as a whole is that subscription model and people willing to pay, particularly for the type of streaming we do, which is non-interactive streaming, is very, very low. You know, it's on the magnitude of 2 to 3% of the users are willing to pay to stream. And so the costs are really borne by the service. And that is it's a really prohibitive expense on the royalty side. On the non-interactive side, the royalties are so prohibitive that in 1 hour's worth of time, we can't generate enough advertising revenue or subscription revenue to cover the costs, plus even run a business.
From the consumer standpoint, you can calculate it. If you've got an AT&T plan on your iPhone, And then the new plans, I think, are $15 for 200 meg and $25 for 2 gig. So it's about 30 meg per hour at 64 kilobits per second, which is what most of the streaming services stream to the iPhone at. So it's about 36 cents per hour. That's the cost.
We were talking earlier before the panel about the sale of vinyl, which is up, and a lot of that has to do with for audiophile people for whom quality is really important. Is quality important, sonic quality important for consumers now?
What we're seeing is that actually there are a significant portion of our customers that actually are happy or are willing to pay for higher quality.
With a lot of things in the evolution of the way people consume audio, developments in hardware technology drive developments in either the audio technology or also just the way that people want to consume what's already there. You want to take advantage of that. Storage is less constrained than it used to be, and I think a better listening experience, better quality is going to have value to people, and we will find a way to bring that value to people.
Is there a general mistrust of emerging technologies, do you feel?
I think there's always some resistance to technology. I think with regard to music, I think that there is a certain amount of fatigue for people who are, who have grown through, vinyl and cassettes and 8-track and CDs and, and then the mini CD and now the DRM digital file, now the MP3 file, and the MP3s are 320K, and then pretty soon they're going to be, much bigger and higher quality. And so, how many times in a lifetime, if you love certain music, are you going to have to rebuy that same music? There's definitely a fatigue to it, but I think right now the beauty of digital is that we do have a format standard, somewhat of a standard right now, especially around the MP3, that hopefully it will mean that people can buy that and hold on to that for a long period of time.
My standpoint is that we are in a period of big changes, and if you look back since the introduction of the PC, but even more back than that, at the end of the day, the new adoption curve has been always faster and faster, right? So it's true that, of course, there is resistance, but I think the adoption is going forward. We think about the iPad. There's already 4.2 million sold, like in a few months. So the new adoption is always happening faster and faster than in the past.